I'd coming off of the heels of a bad relationship. He had been murdered, like right in front of my face, murdered. And I had a child by then at the age of 19. So this was my son's father. And even though I was sad he was gone, I just wanted, because the relationship was so abusive, I just wanted to be safe. I felt like the childhood that I lived, because of the constant different people, stepfathers that you didn't know personally, and not feeling safe with my siblings, like I didn't fit in with them, and then coming off that relationship, I definitely was looking for safety. It was the trying to rebuild, and it was a phone call specifically with my mother, and her telling me, when I asked her, "Mom, how do I get my own apartment? What do I do?" And her telling me, "You need to apply for your food stamps, your welfare, and your Section 8. And as I'm hearing her telling me this whole process of, applying for these systematic things, I was having this other conversation in my head with someone else that was telling me no. It's like a resounding no, that this was not it. This was not the way to go. This was not the life I wanted. Even though I listened and I respected everything she was saying because she was my mom, I knew that I wasn't going to take the advice she was giving me. I think the no came from a lot of places, and particularly I think that the first place it came from was, as a child, I was a reader, and I had read so many books about just different lifestyles, different people, different types of living. So I knew that the lifestyle that we lived was not the only way. But more importantly, I think the no came from God, because even at the age of 19, and for so many years before that, I had a very, very personal relationship with God, and I felt like the voice in my head was the voice of God. We had phone books. So I got in that phone book and looked up apartments and got the addresses and the names of different places, went and talked to those people, asked questions, looked up, went to the library, got some resources of how to find an apartment, things like that. That's what I did. I started off reading, just figuring out what I have to do, finding people who had the answer to the questions that I had, how to create this type of, I just wanted a simple little apartment, that's it. I lived in a homeless shelter prior to all of this happening. So at the Covenant House, they put me through school to be a certified nursing assistant. I really appreciate that place for that. And I even went back to them for resources, because I remember when I stayed there, it was a very brief tenure, but I maybe stayed there like a month or something like that with my son. So I even went back to them I remember them saying, "Oh, we can help you find your own place." When they had resources to help kids find their own place. But I never got to that point because I left there abruptly. So I went back there for those resources. I didn't use the resources because they had the same type of resources of government assistance. And I knew that that's not what I wanted. So basically I found an apartment that I could afford according to the money I was making. It was a little studio, a room in the kitchen, and applied. It was safe, it really was. It had a security guard at the front gate. I just knew I was living good. Security guard at the front gate, and it was an enclosed, type of little type of community. So I just knew that I was safe at that time. When I tell you, between God and reading, those are my just saving graces, just my whole life. I didn't know how to do, I didn't have the people, I didn't have the resources, and I definitely didn't have the money. But I definitely just learned that learning and reading and researching and knowledge what got me everywhere I wanted to be. From a CNA, I went back to being an LPN. And I did the same old thing, got in the phone book and looked up some colleges and said, I'm going back to school. And went back and said, what's the process? The same old thing when I had to find an apartment. What do I have to do? What are the requirements? And figured it out and went back to school, put myself back to school for LPN. And then as an LPN, I became a manager, became a supervisor. I can't say I worked my way up as a LPN because I found out that I was kind of promoted as a vet. Yeah, it was a vet. It was the ADON and the administrator who didn't like me, and they bet that I would fail. The administrator wanted to get rid of me because of my mouth. I was flipped, and the ADON liked me. She said, no, this girl has something good going on for her. So they made a bet that I would, whether or not I can do well in this supervisor position. And so they promoted me to supervisor, and I ran with it. Eventually, I left that job. They begged me to stay, but I felt like I just wanted more. And I remember when I applied for the next job, and they saw that I had supervisor management on my resume. And I had applied for a regular nursing job, and it was like, well, no, we're not gonna hire you as a nurse. We wanna hire you as a supervisor. And ever since then, I was in management because of that bet. So my next job, I went as a manager of an assisted living facility, as the head nurse, did well. But I felt like as an LPN, I couldn't go any further. You can only go so far as in management as an LPN. So I went back to school to be an RN. And I did the same old thing, research, get in those books, research, get on a computer. By that time we had computers. Get on those computers, do some research and figure it out, what do I do? And then when they told me about the program, I started a program, and you do so much of programming of just what they call theory, and then you get to the point where you have to go to clinicals. And I'm like, by this time, I'm divorced. I have 2 kids instead of 1. And I'm like, how can I just go work for these people and call it schooling for free, do clinicals, and still take care of my kids? I couldn't do that. So I decided to open a business to replace my income. I knew I wanted to open a business to replace my income. I didn't know what business, I didn't know how, I didn't know. Once again, I was embarking upon something I didn't know nothing about. So I did what I do. I talk to the man above, and I get in those books and I read. I research and read. And that's exactly what I did. And it took me 9 months to open the barbershop that I have now, Who That Barbershop. It's been 13 years. And I did all of that through research and reading, and definitely God through every step of the way. Now, I definitely feel safe. I feel like I've created a world for myself, for people around me, for my staff, for my children, a safe environment that we can all live in, a safe world that we can live in. I know I'm a server, and I like to serve safety. I like to serve what I know, reading. That's my passion. And I like to serve God. I've had the barbershop for 13 years. I just created a foundation called Who That Cares Foundation. And it's all about teaching children about reading, about learning about their purpose from a young age. I think I believed for so long that I needed somebody else to create that safety. And it was usually a man associated with completion of that safety for me. And I think I got that from my mom because she kept a man. So it wasn't until I spent some years with myself And I learned that I didn't need to complete myself I didn't need to find safety through someone else, that I was able to find safety in myself, and in the things that I can do. I'm most proud of, first of all the things I've been through. And I haven't even listed it all. Between the marriage was abusive, I've been raped, I've been homeless, and I've been in a lot of unsafe relationships in unsafe environments. But I have to tell you that I don't regret any of it, because I know that it made me who I am today. I think that the path that I was on was the path that I was supposed to be on, because it led me here. It led me to who I am. I've always been on a path of growth, progress, and learning. It's been a journey, but I definitely just embrace it all. So what I learned about myself was, with God and with the abilities that He put in you, the blessings and the purpose He already put inside of you, you can do whatever it is that you plan to do, that you want to do. So when I accomplish what I set out to accomplish, and it's time to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, God, what's next? I know that whatever is next, I can do that too, through the grace of God. It takes us so long to find our purpose. Some people are 40, 50, 60 years old and just beginning to ask the questions of, who am I? Why am I here? What am I really meant to do? And my hope is that we can instill in children from a young age, because you know as a child. So if we can instill in children their purpose, that they are here for a reason, and let them know who they are and help them to identify who they are at a young age, that we can help more people to find their purpose and live in their purpose quicker. So that's my hope for the future.